The classroom goes deathly quiet. Mr. Langley stands at the front, holding a stack of papers, edges curled, worn from being handled too much. His sharp eyes scan the room, finally locking onto Ethan. A smirk tugs at the corners of his lips. Ethan freezes. That look. He's seen it before. He knows exactly what it means. Something bad is about to happen. The weight of judgment hangs in the air, thick and suffocating. Ethan can't escape it. "Ethan," Mr. Langley says, his voice dripping with mockery, "I've prepared a test for you. Let's see how well you really know the material." His words cut through the silence like a knife. The class stiffens, all eyes darting to Ethan. There's no mistaking the implication. This isn't a test of knowledge. This is a test of endurance, of humiliation. Ethan's heart thunders in his chest, his palms sweaty against the cold desk. The paper in Mr. Langley's hand seems to grow heavier, an unseen weight pressing down on him. He steps forward, but every step feels like he's walking on a tightrope, each breath an effort, each heartbeat louder than the next. As his eyes flicker to the test in Mr. Langley's hand, he feels the world narrow down to that single sheet of paper. This isn't just a test, it's a trap. The rest of the class watches, some with the edge of curiosity in their eyes, others with a quiet, almost imperceptible satisfaction. Ethan's classmates have seen this before. They've seen Mr. Langley set him up, push him until he falters, and then revel in his discomfort. But today, something feels different. It's not just the way Mr. Langley's grin lingers too long, or how he holds his gaze a little too intently. No, there's something colder, more deliberate about his actions today. The trap is set, and Ethan is walking straight into it. As he grips the edge of the desk, he notices the way some of the students avoid his gaze. The air is thick with judgment, some silent, others barely hidden behind pity. Ethan feels like an exhibit, an animal in a cage, being evaluated for flaws he never asked to expose. The others might not say anything, but he can feel their eyes on him, scrutinizing, expecting him to fail, waiting for the inevitable moment when Mr. Langley proves his weakness to the entire class. And then there's the test. He knows it's not a fair one. There's no way it could be. The questions don't even seem to make sense. A cruel mix of complicated problems and abstract concepts he's never seen before, designed to confuse, to expose the gaps in his understanding. But Ethan also knows something else. The test is a test of character. Mr. Langley isn't just trying to catch him out academically. He's trying to strip him of his dignity. It's personal. He feels the weight of the room's eyes on him, the pressure building, his breath shallow, his hands shaking slightly as he picks up the paper. His thoughts race, but a single, steadying realization settles in his chest. No matter what happens, he won't give him the satisfaction of seeing him break. The classroom waits, a stillness hanging in the air, as Mr. Langley's smirk deepens, his eyes gleaming with the certainty of victory. Ethan places his hands on the desk, ready to face whatever comes next. The test has begun. Will Ethan rise above it, or will Mr. Langley succeed in crushing him once again? Ethan's eyes flicker over the test paper in front of him, his gaze darting from one question to the next. Every word on the page feels like a wall, an obstacle too high to climb. He's never seen questions like these, abstract equations, philosophical riddles, and impossible theoretical problems. It's as though Mr. Langley has crafted this test with the sole intention of trapping him, of catching him in his weakest moment. He grips the paper, feeling the cold edges dig into his palms, the weight of the test and the room pressing down on him. His pulse quickens. The air is thick with expectation. Ethan's classmates, those silent observers, wait for him to break. Some are openly smiling, their faces tight with a mix of pity and satisfaction, already convinced of the outcome. Others glance at him with sympathy, knowing how this will likely play out. He's become a spectator in his own life, a puppet in Mr. Langley's cruel game. But in the midst of it all, something inside Ethan shifts. His heart races, but there's no panic, no overwhelming sense of fear. Instead, he feels an unfamiliar determination. He knows the test isn't just about knowledge, it's about control. Mr. Langley isn't testing his intellect, he's testing his spirit. He's trying to crush him, humiliate him, to prove once and for all that he doesn't belong in this classroom. Mr. Langley watches him intently from the front of the room, a smug smile playing on his lips. His eyes gleam with anticipation, waiting for the moment when Ethan finally stumbles. It's as though he expects him to fold under the pressure, to give in to the impossible challenge he's set for him. The smugness in his expression is palpable, a quiet declaration of superiority. He's been building this moment for years, the moment when he gets to remind Ethan of his place in his world. Let's see if you can answer at least one question, Ethan. He sneers, his voice dripping with mockery. His words sting, but they also light a fire inside him. He doesn't know how he's going to solve this test, but for the first time, the test isn't the challenge anymore. The challenge is him. It's proving him wrong. The room seems to close in around him. The walls feel like they're pressing in. He can hear the hushed whispers from his classmates, feel their judgment and expectation. The social tension is unbearable. Each moment that passes feels like an eternity. The ticking of the clock on the wall is the only sound, reminding him of the time slipping away. Ethan takes a deep breath, staring at the first question. His fingers tremble slightly, but he forces himself to keep calm. This isn't about solving the questions. It's about proving he can stand his ground, about showing everyone in this room that he is more than they think he is, more than Mr. Langley has ever allowed him to be. The pressure is unbearable. Will he let the weight of the world collapse on him? Or will he rise above it all, showing everyone, including Mr. Langley, that they've underestimated him from the start? The seconds stretch out. Ethan's fate hangs in the balance. Ethan's gaze sweeps across the room. The faces of his classmates blur together, each expression like a different weight on his chest. There's pity in some eyes, disappointment in others. But beneath the surface, he feels something more: expectation. The unspoken truth in their gazes is clear. They've all come to see him fail. He can feel it, their anticipation, their certainty that he will stumble under the pressure, that he won't be able to live up to their expectations. His heart races, the blood pounding in his ears, drowning out the whispers and the rustling of paper. He can hear Mr. Langley's voice, sharp and cutting, echoing in his mind. His words replay over and over, taunting him, mocking his quiet nature, his struggles to keep up in class. He remembers the moments when he belittled him, when he insinuated that he didn't belong in this classroom, that he was too slow, too quiet, too invisible. His words were meant to break him. They were meant to convince him that he was worth less than the others, that he didn't deserve a seat at the table. But now, as he sits at the front of the room, staring down at this impossible test, something inside him shifts. It's subtle, almost imperceptible at first, like a flicker of light breaking through the clouds. His fingers tighten around the test paper, the weight of it suddenly lighter than before. His breathing slows as the realization washes over him. He doesn't have to play by his rules anymore. The world around him goes quiet, the pressure of his classmates' judgment fading into the background. For the first time in a long time, he realizes that he doesn't need to prove anything to anyone, not to Mr. Langley, not to his classmates. All his life, he's been trying to measure up, to meet the standards set by others, to fit into a mold that was never made for him. But today is different. He doesn't need to conform to what others expect from him. He only needs to be true to himself. The test, the questions, the failure, it's all just a performance, a game where the rules have been designed for him to lose. But what if he didn't play the game at all? What if he answered the test in a way that no one expected, in a way that defies the very idea of what success and failure are supposed to mean? Ethan's gaze falls on the first question again, but it no longer feels like an insurmountable mountain. It's just a question, one among many. He feels something shift deep within him, a new kind of strength that he's never tapped into before. What if the answer isn't about the question at all? What if it's about how he chooses to respond, how he defines his own success and failure, no matter what Mr. Langley or the class thinks? His hand hovers over the paper, and for the first time, Ethan isn't afraid. He's not thinking about what anyone else wants. He's not trying to prove himself to anyone. He's simply deciding to answer from his heart, not from the place of someone who has been pushed to the edge. In this moment of clarity, will Ethan follow the path laid out for him, or will he shatter the mold completely and create his own? Ethan's gaze never wavers as he slowly looks up from the test paper. His heart is steady now, each beat grounded in a purpose that he hasn't felt before. He doesn't glance around the room, but he knows they're all watching. Every student, every eye in the room is fixed on him. The tension hangs thick in the air, but Ethan feels a strange calmness wash over him. He no longer feels the pressure, no longer a victim of the expectations that have been set for him. Mr. Langley stands across from him, his arms crossed tightly, his face a mask of judgment. His eyes narrow, watching him, expecting the typical nervous stammer, the quiet apology for his lack of preparation. The smirk that has always defined his teaching style lingers, but something about Ethan's stillness, his quiet certainty, starts to erode that confidence. He takes a breath, the words rising inside him. This isn't just about the test anymore. It's bigger than that. I'm not going to answer this test the way you expect, Ethan says, his voice clear and unshaken. The words fall into the room, slicing through the tension. He pauses, allowing his words to settle like a stone in still water. This test, it isn't about knowledge. It's about failure. And failure isn't the end. It's a lesson, a part of learning. His voice is calm, confident, but beneath the surface, there's something more, a quiet power. The kind of power that doesn't need to shout to be heard. The room falls into stunned silence. Ethan's words ripple through the students like a wave, shaking the very foundation of what they thought they knew about learning. Even the most cynical students, the ones who expected him to buckle under pressure, to retreat into his shell, stop, their attention fully captured. They are listening now. For the first time, they are seeing Ethan not as a quiet, weak student, but as someone who holds a truth that they've never considered. Mr. Langley's eyes flash, his brow furrowing as he processes what Ethan just said. The mockery in his gaze begins to falter. His lips press into a thin line, a sign of frustration. The room feels charged, as if it is holding its breath. He's been caught off guard, and in that brief moment, Ethan can see it in his face, the crack in his armor. His pride is wounded. The facade of control that he's built around himself as the all-knowing authority figure begins to falter. But he quickly recovers, his body stiffening, his jaw tightening. He shifts his stance, but something in his eyes tells Ethan that he's unsure, unsettled. He's been challenged. And this isn't just a challenge to the test. It's a challenge to his entire approach to teaching, to the very idea of failure that he's instilled in his classroom. The class watches, not moving, as if the very air is charged with anticipation. They've seen Mr. Langley dismiss students, mock their failures, enforce his idea of success with an iron grip. But today, Ethan has done something different. He has redefined the rules. He hasn't tried to conform to the rigid structure Mr. Langley has created. He's turned the structure itself into a question. The room hums with the silent weight of Ethan's words. His challenge isn't just about the test. It's about everything Mr. Langley has taught them, and perhaps everything he thought he understood about learning. Mr. Langley stands still, his gaze hardening, but there's something shifting beneath the surface, something he hasn't yet acknowledged. Will he dismiss Ethan's challenge, or will his words force him to question everything he's built? The tension lingers. What will happen next? The silence in the room is suffocating. It stretches on, each second feeling like an eternity, as Ethan stands before the class, his words hanging in the air like a quiet storm. The weight of what he's just said settles over the room. This is not just a test of knowledge anymore. This is something deeper, something that threatens to upend everything Mr. Langley has built. His answer wasn't just intellectual, it was emotional, philosophical, a complete redefinition of what failure means. Ethan holds his breath, waiting for something, anything, from Mr. Langley. He can feel his gaze drilling into him, cold and calculating, as if he's trying to piece together a response that will reassert his dominance. But he stands still, eyes narrowed, lips pressed into a tight line. His usual smug confidence has faltered. The classroom feels like it's holding its breath along with him. Ethan doesn't know what comes next. He's aware of the shifting dynamic in the room, the subtle change in how his classmates are looking at him now. They're no longer just silent observers of his failure. They're watching a shift, a crack in the foundation of Mr. Langley's authority. Some of them look confused, others unsure of what to do. But one thing is clear. The status quo is crumbling, and none of them know how to handle it. The clock ticks loudly in the background, its rhythm the only sound that dares to break the suffocating silence. Ethan feels every beat of it echo in his chest, the tick-tock louder than it's ever been. His heart races, but it's not fear anymore. It's something different, anticipation. He knows that he's just stepped into uncharted territory. But what happens next is out of his control. Mr. Langley's fingers twitch. His eyes shift briefly, scanning the room, and then, almost imperceptibly, he steps forward. The room holds its breath, as if collectively waiting for the next moment, the next move. The tension is unbearable. Ethan feels like he's standing on the edge of a precipice. Will Mr. Langley admit that he's been wrong, that Ethan has turned the tables on him? Or will he fight back, finding a way to tear him down once again, to regain control over the narrative he spent so long shaping? The room holds its breath. What will Mr. Langley do next? Mr. Langley's face reddens with frustration, his jaw clenched so tightly it looks like it might crack. Ethan's words hang in the air, sharp and unsettling, a direct challenge to everything he's ever stood for in the classroom. His hand slams down on the desk, the force of it echoing through the room. The sound cuts through the tense silence, sharp and commanding. He leans forward, eyes narrowing into slits as he locks eyes with Ethan. "You think you're above this test?" he spits, his voice growing louder with each word, each syllable laced with venom. "You think failure is just a lesson? That you can simply redefine what it means to succeed and fail?" His words ricochet off the walls, trying to knock down the weight of Ethan's challenge. The room pulses with an almost palpable energy, the students frozen in place, unsure how to react. They know what's at stake here, not just Ethan's fate, but the very power dynamic that has existed for years between Mr. Langley and the class. The teacher's authority has always been unchallenged, his judgment absolute. But now, in this moment, Ethan has done something no student has dared to do before. He's taken a sledgehammer to his control, shattered it into pieces. The class sits motionless, the air thick with uncertainty. Some students glance nervously at each other, unsure whether to side with Mr. Langley, the respected teacher who has never been wrong, or to stand behind Ethan, the quiet student who has just rewritten the rules of the classroom. But no one moves, no one speaks. The tension is suffocating. There's a feeling in the room, something unspoken, something that's changing in the way they see Ethan. He's no longer just the shy, quiet student. He's become a symbol of something more. Mr. Langley's fingers curl into a fist on the desk, his knuckles white, but he refuses to back down. He takes a step toward Ethan, narrowing the gap between them. "We'll see about that," he growls. His voice is a low threat, an attempt to regain some sense of power. "Answer the test then, Ethan. Show me how failure is a lesson. Show me how you think you can turn this around. We'll see if your philosophical mumbo-jumbo holds up when you have to prove yourself." His words drip with disdain, like acid on the very notion of what Ethan has just offered. Ethan stands his ground. He doesn't flinch, doesn't cower. His heart races, but this time, it's not from fear. It's from something else, something stronger, something he never knew he had in him. His hands, once trembling, now steady themselves, and his eyes, once uncertain, are filled with a quiet resolve. The room feels as though it's holding its breath, waiting to see if Ethan will fold under the pressure or rise to meet it. The students are watching closely, their eyes flicking from Ethan to Mr. Langley, wondering if the teacher's aggression will break him, or if he'll stand tall and show them all a side of him they've never seen. The battle of wills has begun. Mr. Langley has thrown down the gauntlet, but Ethan's response could change everything. Will he fight back or crumble under the weight of his expectations? Mr. Langley's voice cuts through the tension like a blade. "Prove it, then. Show us this lesson you speak of." His words are sharp, and the room seems to freeze as he thrusts a new test into Ethan's hands. The test is thick, a stack of papers filled with complex equations and abstract theories, questions Ethan has never seen before, designed to trap him. The type of test that no one, not even the top students, would feel confident in solving under these circumstances. Ethan's fingers brush against the paper, the weight of it heavy in his hands. He can feel his heart pounding in his chest, louder than ever before. The room is silent now, the students watching intently, their gazes shifting nervously between Ethan and Mr. Langley. They've never seen a moment like this. The quiet, reserved Ethan standing up to the teacher who has always belittled him, who has always made him feel small. And now, Mr. Langley is giving him an impossible task, one designed not just to test his intellect, but to break his spirit. His mind races as he glances over the test. There are equations with symbols he's never encountered before, theories that seem to defy everything he's learned so far. The challenge is clear: prove yourself. Prove that you're not just the quiet, misunderstood student, but that you can rise above everything that has been thrown at you. This test is no longer about academic knowledge, it's about his character. It's about integrity. It's about showing Mr. Langley and everyone else that he is more than what they think he is. The class is silent, waiting. The air in the room is thick, heavy with expectation. The clock ticks in the background, the sound steady, almost methodical, like the passing of time itself, reminding Ethan that there is no room for error. He can feel the weight of their eyes on him, the pressure mounting. He's never been this exposed, never felt like he was the center of attention in such a high-stakes moment. But now, as he takes a deep breath and looks at the test again, something shifts inside him. His hands tremble, but only slightly. This is the moment. He knows he's being tested, but not in the way he expected. It's not just about grades or formulas, it's about something deeper. It's about self-respect and the realization that this test doesn't define him. No matter how it turns out, the act of standing up to Mr. Langley has already shown his true strength. But can he solve the test? Can he prove to himself and the class that he is more than what Mr. Langley thinks? As he begins to write, the room watches in complete silence. The class is holding its collective breath, unsure of what will happen next. Will he crack under the pressure, or will he find the courage to rise above the test and redefine what success really means? The seconds stretch on, every student in the room silently waiting to see if Ethan will emerge victorious or be defeated once more in front of them all. Ethan's pen moves across the paper, each stroke steady and deliberate. The hum of the classroom fades as he focuses entirely on the test in front of him. But it's not the complex equations or the challenging theories that weigh on his mind anymore. Something else, something deeper. His hand moves across the paper almost instinctively, the mathematical symbols becoming a distant thought as his mind drifts back to the question that truly matters. What is failure, really? He pauses for a moment, the pen hovering above the paper. A thought, an idea begins to form inside him, a truth that he's known all along but had never dared to say out loud. His breath steadies as he speaks, almost as if to himself, but his words are loud enough to reach every ear in the room. Failure isn't the problem, Ethan says, his voice calm, but filled with an unexpected weight. The problem is how we view it. We treat failure like the end, when in reality, it's a new beginning. His words cut through the tense air, reaching every corner of the classroom. The students, still seated in their chairs, are frozen for a moment. Some glance at one another, their expressions filled with surprise and intrigue, as if hearing a different side of Ethan for the first time. It's like a veil has been lifted. The quiet boy who always sat at the back of the room, barely speaking above a whisper, is now speaking with the kind of clarity and confidence they never expected from him. Ethan's words reverberate through the room, each syllable louder than the last. His classmates, some unsure, some skeptical, begin to nod slowly. The realization that something profound is happening settles in. The hesitation in their eyes starts to shift. Could Ethan really be onto something here? Could failure be more than just a defeat? Could it be a stepping stone, a lesson instead of the end of the road? Mr. Langley stands still, his expression unreadable. For a moment he almost seems confused. The walls of control he has built around his classroom, around his authority, begin to feel a little less solid. His world is being questioned, not with loud defiance, but with quiet, deliberate wisdom. Ethan's challenge isn't just about the test. It's about redefining everything he's taught. As Ethan continues to write, his pen moving fluidly across the page, the class watches his every move. Some students still stare in confusion, unable to reconcile this new side of Ethan with the timid boy they thought they knew. They've never seen him like this before. The Ethan they knew would have been trembling in fear, trying to solve the equations. But now, he seems calm, even serene, as if he's unlocking something far more important than any academic formula. His words still hang in the air. Failure is not the end. The weight of the room shifts, each student grappling with the thought. But will they accept it? Or will they still hold on to the belief that failure is something to be avoided at all costs? Ethan pauses for a brief second before continuing, his pen moving once again. The class leans in even closer, watching, waiting. Is he about to answer the test in a way that will change everything? Will this moment of clarity break through the old, rigid ways of thinking, or will the weight of the test of Mr. Langley's expectations crush him? The room holds its breath, waiting for the answer, the resolution that will define Ethan's fate in this defining moment. The tension rises. His classmates' eyes flicker between Ethan and the test, the words he's writing, unsure of what comes next. Will his philosophical breakthrough carry him through, or will he be overwhelmed by the impossible test laid before him? Will his courage be enough to change the outcome, or will it be crushed under the weight of his doubts? Ethan's hand moves one last time across the paper, his pen gliding effortlessly over the lines. The answers come not as calculations, not as numbers or formulas, but as words, ideas that turn the entire test on its head. The equations, once a barrier, are now just a backdrop to his message. His final answer isn't a solution to the problem. It's a lesson about failure, about growth, about the journey of learning. Failure is not the opposite of success. Ethan writes, his words simple yet profound, it is a part of it. Without failure, there is no progress. Without the struggle, there is no mastery. This test isn't meant to measure success, but to reveal our approach to failure and how we rise from it. He pauses, takes a breath, and then writes one final sentence. Success isn't a destination, it's a process. And the only real failure is giving up before the process is complete. Ethan places his pen down, his hands steady, his heart pounding with a strange mix of exhilaration and calm. He's done something he never thought possible. He's not just solving the test, he's challenging the entire idea of what it means to succeed and fail. His answer has become a revolution, a philosophy, a challenge to everything Mr. Langley and the system have taught him. The room is silent. The only sound is the soft tick of the clock on the wall, marking the passage of time as the students sit frozen in their seats. They stare at Ethan, not just because of the answer on the paper, but because of the quiet strength he has shown. It's as if he's redefined the very terms of the game, not through defiance, but through wisdom. Mr. Langley stands at the front of the room, completely motionless. His eyes are locked on the paper in front of him, and for the first time, his confidence falters. He's looking for something, a mistake, a flaw, something that will allow him to dismiss Ethan's answer as irrelevant. But there's nothing. He flips the paper over, eyes scanning the pages again, this time more slowly, as if hoping to find something that will give him an out. But nothing. The class watches, the energy in the room shifting from anticipation to uncertainty. Some students glance at each other, their eyes wide, realizing that what Ethan has done isn't just an answer, it's a revelation. Ethan has exposed the limitations of the system, of the very way they've been taught to view success and failure. The walls of Mr. Langley's rigid authority are crumbling, piece by piece, under the weight of his words. Mr. Langley shifts his weight, his face a mask of controlled frustration. The tension in his jaw tells a story of internal conflict. A man who's built his entire career on rigid standards, now confronted with an answer that threatens to expose the fragility of those standards. The room holds its breath. Mr. Langley's grip tightens around the desk as he looks up, his gaze locked with Ethan's. What will he do now? Will he admit defeat and acknowledge Ethan's breakthrough? Or will he find a way to twist his words, to discredit his insight, and maintain control over the class? The moment of truth is upon them. The room hums with a low, charged energy, as if the air itself is vibrating with anticipation. Ethan stands still at the front, his posture steady, though the tremor in his hands is barely noticeable. His heart beats steadily, but it's not from fear anymore. It's the feeling of something shifting, something momentous unfolding in front of him. The silence is deafening, but it's a silence filled with respect, not the kind of oppressive quiet that usually follows his moments of failure. This time, it's different. One by one, the students begin to stand. At first, it's hesitant, a single clap from someone in the back of the room, but then another. Slowly, they all begin to join in, their applause quiet at first, but it grows louder with each passing second. They aren't just applauding Ethan's answer. They're applauding his courage, his defiance of the system they've all been trapped in. The teacher has no power in this moment, not because of the defiance, but because of the wisdom Ethan has brought to light. He has turned his game into something else entirely. A battle of intellect and spirit, a challenge he never expected from someone like him. Mr. Langley stands frozen, his eyes wide with disbelief. He scans the room, his face a twisted mask of anger and humiliation. His mouth opens, as if to say something, anything, to restore order, to remind them that he is still the authority in this room. But the words never come. Instead, his gaze shifts to Ethan, as if searching for some way to invalidate him. The reality of the situation begins to settle in. The class is no longer under his control. They have seen Ethan, truly seen him, not just as the quiet student who always plays by the rules, but as a person with his own strength, his own wisdom. Ethan feels the weight of the moment, but it's not heavy in the way it used to be. His shoulders aren't burdened by the expectations of others. He stands taller now, not just physically, but in the way he holds himself, the way his presence fills the room. The respect from his peers, once a distant dream, now feels real. Not because he solved the equations, but because he faced the real test, the test of his character. He redefined the boundaries of the classroom, and in doing so, he redefined himself. His gaze briefly flickers to Mr. Langley, who still stands frozen at the front, his arms crossed, his expression taut with humiliation. He has always been the one who determined success and failure in this room, but now Ethan has shown the class that there's more than one way to succeed, and sometimes, failure is just a part of the process. But as the applause dies down, the room settles into an unsettling silence again. The students look to Mr. Langley, unsure of what will happen next. The power dynamics have shifted, and they all feel it. The classroom will never be the same again. The tension is palpable. Mr. Langley still hasn't said anything, his face a storm of conflicting emotions. His authority, so carefully constructed over the years, has been shattered not by rebellion, but by wisdom. Can he recover from this blow? Will he retaliate, trying to reclaim control? Or will the quiet victory of one student forever alter the way this class, this space of learning functions? Mr. Langley stands in the center of the room, visibly shaken. What happens now? Does he reclaim his authority, or is this moment of change irreversible? The silence stretches on, thick and heavy, as Mr. Langley stands motionless, staring at Ethan. His eyes, once filled with smug superiority, are now clouded with frustration and something darker, humiliation. His fists are clenched at his sides, his jaw tight with barely contained rage. The students shift uncomfortably in their seats, unsure of what will come next. Mr. Langley's pride is wounded, his authority shattered in an instant by a quiet student who dared to challenge him in front of the class. His veins bulge in his neck as he forces out a deep breath, trying to steady himself. But he can't let it go. He can't let Ethan's quiet wisdom stand unchallenged. Not in his classroom. Not in front of his students. This is absurd, he suddenly shouts, his voice echoing against the walls, as though trying to force the words back into control. I will not let a student undermine me in front of my class. His words reverberate in the air, drenched with a mix of frustration and disbelief. He's visibly shaken, his hands trembling as they grip the edge of the desk. His gaze never leaves Ethan, but it's not just anger that fills his eyes now. It's a need to prove himself, to restore the power he's lost. Without another word, Mr. Langley storms to the board, his boots thundering against the floor, each step an attempt to assert his dominance once more. He grabs a marker, his fingers white-knuckling the plastic as if it's the only thing keeping him grounded. The class watches in stunned silence, eyes darting between Mr. Langley's trembling hands and Ethan's calm, defiant posture at the front of the room. Fine, Mr. Langley sneers, his voice dripping with contempt. If you think you can redefine failure, then solve this. He turns sharply to the board and begins to scribble furiously, the marker flying across the surface. The equation he writes is complex, an intricate web of numbers, symbols, and formulas that even the most brilliant students in the class would struggle to solve on the spot. The students sit back in their seats, eyes widening. It's impossible. Some start to murmur among themselves, the pressure in the room mounting. There's a collective intake of breath as they realize what Mr. Langley is doing. He's not just testing Ethan's intelligence anymore. He's testing his resolve, his grit. He's daring him to fail, daring him to fall into the trap he's set, just as he's done with so many students before. Mr. Langley finishes writing, the final symbols on the board a glaring declaration of his authority, a challenge Ethan cannot ignore. He steps back, crossing his arms, watching him like a hawk, his face a mixture of anger and anticipation. His eyes gleam with a sense of victory, already imagining the moment when Ethan stumbles, when he proves to the class that his authority cannot be challenged, that he is the one in control. But Ethan doesn't flinch. His gaze moves slowly from the equation on the board to Mr. Langley's face. There's a flicker of something in his eyes, resolve, yes, but also something else, something deeper. The quiet understanding that this isn't just about the test. It's about everything. The room holds its breath. Will Ethan back down, as Mr. Langley expects? Or will he rise to the challenge one last time, proving that his strength isn't just in his intellect, but in his courage to face down an authority that has tried to break him for so long? The tension is thick, the air charged with anticipation. Will Ethan crumble, or will he take one last stand, showing that the power of knowledge and wisdom is not something that can be measured by equations? The classroom is waiting for his answer, and so is Mr. Langley. Ethan's fingers tremble as he steps closer to the board, the weight of the chalk heavier than it's ever felt. The room is dead silent, the anticipation almost suffocating. Every eye in the room is fixed on him. He can feel the heat of their stares, the hope in some and the doubt in others. This isn't just another test, it's a defining moment, one that could shift everything. The stakes are clear. If he fails, it's a victory for Mr. Langley, the teacher who has spent years imposing his rigid authority over the classroom. If he succeeds, it might break the system he spent so long maintaining, the system that has kept him and so many others in their place. His mind races. His hands, still gripping the chalk, are slick with sweat. But as his gaze flickers across the classroom, something shifts within him. The weight of their expectations doesn't crush him. It ignites a spark of clarity. This is no longer about proving Mr. Langley wrong. It's not about defeating him. It's about proving to himself that he is enough, that his worth is not defined by a test or a teacher's scorn. Ethan glances at the board, the equation still staring back at him like an impenetrable wall. But now it feels different. The numbers, the symbols, the theories, they don't matter. What matters is the story he's about to tell. The answer he gives won't just be about solving problems. It will be about reclaiming his voice, about redefining what failure means and showing the class that there's more than one way to succeed. His breath slows. The fear that once clouded his mind begins to fade, replaced with something far more powerful: resolve. This is his moment, his chance to step beyond the quiet student who hides in the back of the room, beyond the boy who has always been afraid of speaking up. He is no longer that person. He stands at the front of the room, his back straight, the chalk held firmly in his hand. His inner strength rises, steady and unwavering. He glances at Mr. Langley, who is still watching him, his face a mask of cold scrutiny. His gaze is harsh, his presence domineering, but it no longer holds power over him. His eyes narrow, expecting him to falter, waiting for him to crumble under the weight of his challenge. He has spent years teaching his students to fear failure, to worship success in a way that stifles their creativity, their potential. But Ethan is no longer afraid. His mind sharpens, focusing only on the task at hand. The chalk moves in his hand, slowly at first, as he begins to write. The answer takes shape. Not just the solution to the problem, but something more, a statement, a declaration of who he is and what he believes. The words on the board start to form a new narrative. Failure is not the end. It's the beginning of something new, a chance to learn, to grow. It is not something to be feared, it's something to embrace. The class watches, captivated, as Ethan's words fill the board. The tension in the air is palpable, and yet Ethan feels a strange calmness settle over him. He is not just solving an equation. He is solving the equation of his own existence, defining himself in a way he never thought possible. The classroom is waiting. Will Ethan's inner strength rise to the occasion, or will the pressure of the moment break him, leaving him to succumb to the expectations that have always held him down? The weight of his own thoughts and the eyes of his classmates rest on his shoulders as he writes the final word. Mr. Langley stands frozen in front of the board, Ethan's answer still written in bold, defiant letters. His eyes flick over the words again and again, as if expecting them to change, to shift, to somehow reveal a flaw he can exploit. But each time he reads it, the weight of Ethan's words sinks in deeper, like a stone dropped into the still waters of his carefully crafted authority. The equation, the theory, the rigid structure he had always believed in, all of it seems suddenly fragile, unraveling before him with every pass of his gaze. His lips press tighter, his face hardening as he tries to summon the sharp, commanding tone that has always defined him. But it's not working. He can't find the words, can't summon the anger he's always relied on to assert control. Instead, there's an uncomfortable silence, an unsettling stillness that grows around him. This is ridiculous, Mr. Langley mutters under his breath, but even he knows how weak his voice sounds. The words feel hollow, empty, as if they're an attempt to maintain some semblance of authority that is rapidly slipping away. His fingers tighten around the paper, crumpling it in his hand, but the tension in his body is different now. It's not just frustration, it's something more, something deeper, as if he is struggling against the very foundation of his belief system. The students watch, their gazes shifting between Ethan and Mr. Langley. They've never seen him like this. Mr. Langley, the towering figure of authority, the one who never hesitates to call the shots, to impose his will. Now he is the one who seems uncertain, fragile. His confidence is cracking, and in its place is a crackling tension, a slow, creeping realization that Ethan has done something impossible. He has challenged him, not with defiance, but with wisdom. And now he's forcing him to question everything he thought he knew. Ethan, standing quietly at the front of the room, feels the shift in the air, but he doesn't flinch. He can see the change in Mr. Langley, but he doesn't need his approval anymore. His words have already carried the weight they needed to, not because of his acceptance, but because of the quiet strength that now reverberates throughout the room. He has proven something far more important than the solution to a test. He has proven that failure doesn't define him, that he defines himself. Mr. Langley's eyes flick back to the paper again, as if searching for a flaw he can discredit, something that will bring him back to the familiar ground of authority. But every time he looks at the words Ethan wrote, the harder it becomes to dismiss them. The system he's relied on is crumbling, and he can't stop it. The room is still, too still. The students sit on edge, their eyes locked on Mr. Langley, unsure of what will happen next. They've never seen him this vulnerable, this shaken. It's as though Ethan has turned the tables, not just on the test, but on everything Mr. Langley has built. Mr. Langley takes a step back, his eyes flickering to Ethan, then back to the paper. Will he accept Ethan's view, acknowledging the power of his insight, or will his pride push him to destroy his answer, to crush his idea before it can take root? The classroom holds its breath, waiting for the teacher's next move. The bell rings, slicing through the heavy silence that has hung over the classroom since Ethan's final words were written on the board. The sound feels almost surreal, like a signal that the battle has ended, but the consequences are far from over. Slowly, students begin to rise from their seats, gathering their belongings, but there's no rush, no sudden burst of excitement. The room is subdued, almost reverent in its quiet energy. Ethan stands at the front, still holding the chalk in his hand, feeling the weight of the moment settle around him. He gathers his things slowly, methodically, unsure of what exactly has changed, but knowing that something inside him, something inside all of them, has shifted. The students don't look at him the same way anymore. There's no overt praise, no loud congratulations. Instead, there's a subtle acknowledgement. They see him now not as the quiet, misunderstood boy who always sits at the back of the class, but as someone who has challenged the very foundation of their education, and in doing so has earned their respect. As Ethan moves to leave, he notices the looks exchanged between his classmates. They aren't filled with pity or judgment anymore. There's something deeper in their gazes, a mix of admiration and contemplation. They don't know what to make of his answer yet, but they know this: Ethan has done what no one else could. He's shown them that there's more than one way to succeed, and more importantly, that failure isn't something to fear, but something to learn from. But amidst this subtle shift in the room, there's one figure who remains untouched by it all. Mr. Langley, still standing at the front of the classroom, doesn't speak. His hands are still gripping the edge of his desk, his back turned to the class as he methodically begins to gather his own papers. He doesn't look at Ethan. His head is down, his face a mask of frustration, of silent defeat. The teacher who has spent so many years building his authority with strict rules and harsh judgments now stands in silence, unable to respond to Ethan's words. He has no words left. His methods, his carefully crafted system, have been upended not by rebellion, but by something he never saw coming: wisdom. The room begins to empty as the students file out, but Ethan stays behind for a moment, collecting his things. He looks at Mr. Langley once more. He doesn't raise his head. There's no confrontation, no final word, just the sound of paper shuffling and the muffled footsteps of students leaving. Ethan walks to the door, his heart still racing, but now with a different feeling, a feeling of quiet triumph. He hasn't won an academic victory, and he hasn't proven himself to Mr. Langley. What he has done is far more important. He has redefined the terms of the game. He has shown himself and everyone else that his worth isn't defined by grades, by tests, or by the approval of a teacher who didn't believe in him. As he walks out of the classroom, the door closing softly behind him, Ethan knows one thing for certain: he's no longer invisible. The classroom remains, but Mr. Langley does not move. Has he truly been defeated? Or will he find a way to maintain his grip on the room, on the students, on the very system that has always served him so well? Ethan has changed the dynamics in ways he cannot yet understand, but will he ever acknowledge it? Or will he hold on to his authority for one final attempt at control?